Sorry, I promised a few students that I will be recording the session, and
That it is being recorded, Harpal. I see the recording
it's
button
the
going
recording
on.
for the not the Zoom recording. It's the video is not getting recorded, but now it is getting recorded. Yeah. All right. So fundamentally, the position we were trying to solve was how do we make our students sound more exciting, more interesting to colleges? We pivoted from just college admissions, saying which colleges to apply for, to actually helping students get them into good summer programs. But now summer programs have become this checkbox item in their own way, where colleges are now saying, well, it's pay for play. You're either getting into a Polygins, or if you're getting into a very coveted summer program, like even a Cosmos on its own is not cutting it for colleges, because colleges want to see a continuum. They don't want you just be students who come to a program, done something. They want to see lineage, what you got you to the summer program, what you did building on top of that. So when I challenged Serena and Anu with the ideas, saying, what do we do different to um, make our students more interesting fundamentally for colleges? One of the things that came up was how do we make them get genuinely interested about research, so that research can be done in an inorganic way or an organic way by teams, by students showcasing their interest by doing demonstrated projects at Olympiads or at science fairs, or just taking on projects on their for their kicks of the project or learning about it, and maybe continuing that research with professors at community colleges or their own school teachers. So that's the fundamental thing we try to solve. And many of you have seen me show this slide when you've come to me initially, when we were in the initial conversations. We've talked about these four footprints, or the four legs of the stool, where authenticity, intellectual curiosity, and admirable character and the fit are super important. If you see in all these four areas of expectations that colleges have, independent projects showcasing demonstrated interest, recreational learning, and persistence, grit, tend to come out. Now, we can wing it with all these, with saying, yeah, I did some project somewhere, but nothing beats doing qualified research in a specific area of interest that you have. And that's the premise we are trying to build on. So if we can fix these four highlighted areas in pink, or those traits in a student, the bet that Success Coach is making, based on what we've seen in the past, is we can fundamentally make more interesting students for colleges. We can make fundamentally more interesting students for just becoming students of learning. Okay. Now, this session, you can ask as many questions. You can stop us in between, ask a question. Uh, we'll answer any kind of questions you have. Okay? And of course, at the points along the way, we'll make it available to just ask questions. But just raise your hand, and at some point, I'll stop the speakers from presenting and just answering your questions. Okay. Okay. So what problem I'm trying to solve, which is fundamentally make it easier for families to or students to get into to good STEM projects, to good interesting projects. Parents do not have to spend massive amounts of money to get them into programs which they might get into, students might get into or not get into. This whole thing of, I need to publish a paper and that's how people will genuinely see my interest. Um, to really know if a student really wants to do that kind of a particular interest area or not, just to tickle a student or to poke them to know, will they really want to do certain kind of research projects. That's what the overall problem we're trying to solve. Um, and really for the students, it's, how like many of you probably saw the passion projects PDF files I had sent just about 3 weeks ago. And those are overwhelming when you look at the details. I was overwhelmed when I looked at the details. It's also because I'm not from a research background, but these two ladies with me, Serena and Anu, they are from that background. So they were getting excited about projects which were getting me nervous. So I'm hoping I can move my student from my camp, which is of being nervous, to being excited to how Serena and Anu would get when they would do those projects. So in effectively, we're trying to build that gene in you. Anu, do you want to give a quick introduction to your background and and then, explain the next two sets of slides, and then we can have Serena take over from there.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And it's really, really wonderful to be here in this beautiful space to talk about research. And my name is Anu Villapakam, and I have a background in molecular microbiology, biological sciences, biomed area. And I got my second master's in biological sciences doing research at Smith College. And then I was part of the Human Genome Project at MIT for many years, and then went to grad school in Tufts Medical School for getting my PhD. And then I did a postdoc at Stanford. So it's been years and years of research, and I just love that space. And that's why the research project at SK is, as Harpal would always say, it's your baby, your baby project, right? My goal here is to have students move that muscle or develop that muscle and move that muscle to command a space for themselves where they show their curiosity, their intelligent curiosity, the way they pursue a question, just even to ask a question and say, hey, how do I work that question out? What do I look at? How do I analyze literature? How do I think about what meaningful question to ask? Where will that take me? Right. And I realized that this is an important area, no matter which major you choose. That's a skill and a much needed muscle to move. And that one time I asked a student, like, oh, yeah, I did a paid summer project and I looked at the interaction of a protein controlling this. I'm like, so, and she kind of talked about the project and I said, so what? And she's like, no, but that's what my mentor told me to do. And I did that. And I'm part of a paper. But I couldn't see the student being able to connect A to B to C to take it all the way home. And that's when I asked, what is your role here? And like, no, I don't know. The parameters were given and I just did a bunch of things. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is how it's being projected, how would that look to a admissions committee that's waiting to judge you, right? Or ask you more questions? But I asked this question, like, did you think if you removed the cofactor, how would this protein interact at all? How would it bind? What happens if you remove the accessories away? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a question I never thought of. So analyze, go into the problem, right? Try to unravel it. And that teaches skills that are so transferable to many other things you would do in your college or grad school or anywhere else, right? So that is the need for understanding research. And that is where, Harpal and I have been thinking of how can we make this so easy and to easily do without committing to huge payment oriented projects, which other places promise. So that's where it comes to our core promise, and we have our a stellar mentor, Serena, bring in the help needed for guiding these students. So as you look at the core promise slide, you need to understand what research is and to understand what has been done before in this area to formulate the next few questions. That shows to the committee that you have a curious mind that soaks up things and progresses things forward, right? So how to analyze literature, right? um, an area where you can say, this is my project idea, and I took it from A to B. You don't even have to go all the way to C or D or E, right? Get somewhere and show this is my continuum. I've been doing this for months, and this is a meaningful place I've arrived at. And there are more questions which I will be answering further. Practical research skills, right? You talk about literature analysis, how to think, how to look at stats, how to think about scientific writing or talk about a scientific idea meaningfully, right? Like that's a so very important skill that research would guarantee. And then clear next step options, like how would you think about it? Can you start this idea in a club at school? Can you gather a few people to help you work on that? These are areas they can take the idea and run with it in meaningful way. That again shows starting from a point and going all the way to the how much ever you can do. That shows your dedicated follow up. And these are the things that SK is really keen on seeing the students grow into. And another slide, Harpa.
I mean, just take it to yourself. Think about the idea that if you got into a good program like a Cal Poly Epic or a Cosmos, and you just went there for a month, did something, but if you could not have a way to connect the dots, why you went into it and what did you do afterwards with it, organically, entrepreneurially to build up, like Anu was talking about the with the teacher, the club in the school. Those are areas we're trying to fill up by showcasing genuine interest. It's also something which can help you get to those amazing summer programs. And even if you don't get into it, it's a hedge where you can do this on your own and showcase that interest to colleges that you did this on your own. Go ahead, Anu.
Yeah. So who is this for? All right. Like I would say start as early as you can. It's for everybody from 8th to 11th. Of course, once you get to senior year, your senior year, there isn't much room to showcase the legacy with which you've followed up research. So this is anywhere from 8th graders to 11th graders. Genuinely, students were interested in asking a curiosity-based question in STEM and following it up with meaningful literature analysis, formulating, maybe pulling a set of data and understanding, hey, this point is off. Like this demography was more prone to COVID. Why? What gene was susceptible to make them, develop COVID? And why would this, population be guarded? Like ask those curious minded questions. Doesn't matter if it is in biomedical or it is in bioengineering. Big questions, but think about, do you even understand what does research look like, right? Like what do I need to have to pursue research? Everybody throws the word like, oh, I did research with this professor, I did research somewhere. Where do you want to take that baby step to falter, get up? It's pretty much, I would say, learning research is like toddler learning to walk. You get up, you fall down. Hey, I didn't like that question, but can I reframe it this way? What does research really look like? This is where you can learn it, right? And one of the values or strengths we want to see the students develop, which will help them a long way, would be to be committed, have the discipline, right, to move that research muscle, show up for the meetings with the mentors, pursue the next level of questions, go work on it for a week or two, come back with meaningful progress, right? So that is the motivation and grit necessarily what we are looking for, that the students can develop from as early as 8th or 9th grade. And imagine where they will be at 11th grade, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this is a roster, I'm going to share this in another upcoming webinar in the next 2 months, where how do you take your extracurriculars that you're doing from just something which you've done it because it's cute to actually making it something very high impact and very rare. So this is what something called a college wine extracurricular tier guide, which breaks down. It's an industry wide. Most counselors will use it. My goal is to take your activities, which probably are sitting somewhere in moderately descriptive impact, moderate impact, and fairly common for people to do. Like, for example, president of a robotics club of 20 members. That's impact is moderate and it's fairly common. Okay. Now we have ways to obviously elevate yourself to next tier. But with what Serena and Anu are talking about is taking research to a next level of tier where your research could be, at lower somewhere over here, like science club active member with some projects. If you've done this, and you are now trying to getting to a regional award, partnering with a professor for real research projects, taking it to what we call as the next tier, which is taking it to tier 1, which is here. That's the goal we're trying to do with research. And obviously, you see Serena and Anu talking in medical parlay, but the same idea applies for research to computer science, to engineering, to business, to all of those. Fundamentally, research still stays the same. So stay with us to get the basics of it. We will also talk about the curiosity projects. There are these projects I had shared with you a few weeks ago. We'll talk about what these projects, how these projects can leverage knowledge of research, which is obviously going, in this case, they're mostly fairly health oriented. Don't run too much away, even if you're thinking of a computer science career. The one thing you've done is 9th grade is biology or sciences. So your easier path to bio and chem, which you'll do in 9th and 10th, is with research projects here. You can still get interdisciplinary projects with computer science, but you'll also see many of these projects require computer science and engineering knowledge. Okay. So
And Harpal, if I can chime in, we gave an example as Harpal rightly pointed, as in biology area, but the same thing can work in engineering and computer science, right? For example, NASA has data sets available of how astronauts' proteome profile changes in space, right? Like that's a totally different atmosphere there. But how do you crunch it? That's data analysis right there, right? We also have engineering students who have pursued research. Like one student came in and like, I'm in finishing 10th grade, I don't know what to do. Okay, apply to a summer program, come back, then talk about Formula One, analyze what type of materials need to be fused for giving the most aerodynamics oriented car for racing, right? Like that became one of her projects, and she's now all the way in mechanical engineering in Purdue. So it doesn't matter which area you go into, research is the much needed, call of the hour that students need to build on.
Sounds good. All right, so Serena, you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and then talk about the workshop 1, which we are planning for in June, and then maybe workshop 2, which is a follow-on workshop. Please, let's get an introduction from you and let's get going from there.
Yeah, sounds good. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I think. My name's Serena. A little bit about me. I'm currently a medical student. Did my undergrad at Harvard, took a gap year in research, and then now I'm in school in DC. I'll start really broad and just kind of talk a little bit about, before I go into this, like why I'm here. Maybe like 7, 8 years ago, like I was in your kids' shoes. I was the high schooler who liked research. I was lucky enough that my school had like a built-in research program, but I saw like friends from other schools, even in college, like my peers who didn't really have that kind of structure built in. And obviously I don't want to harp too much on about what Harpal and Anu have both said, but like at its core, I love research. And I think that today, like obviously you publish papers, everybody needs a thing. But getting into research is really hard. And I think that having this kind of individual project to show for, I think at the end of the day in applications, like the grit and determination and interest comes out a lot more than published papers do. Which is kind of why I'm here, because this is supposed to be an on-ramp for students to just get into it, see what it's like, see what research at its core is about, and then take away something that you can talk about in college apps, you can build off of into a career, whatever that may be. But yeah, so happy to be here. We were thinking to do kind of 2 workshops in, I think it's June, so roughly an hour to an hour and a half per session. I think it's 4. Is it 4 sessions? Sorry, Harpal, can you scroll down?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. 4 sessions for workshop 1. The goal of workshop 1 really is just to kind of do an intro to research. So scientific method, different methodologies. How do you actually do a literature review? How do you come up with an idea and then refine the idea? And how do you approach scientific writing? So these are all really basic skill sets that, regardless of what research field and, dare I say, like STEM focused career that you go into, these are really important. So how to analyze data, how to read things, how to write things, how to communicate. So our goal is just, as you guys can see by the graphic here, just kind of go through these super low stakes and probably give out some, as Anu has said, like light homework between sessions, just to kind of get these skill sets reinforced. But the goal is for students to just, have a sense of like, what is research, and does this like really click with them? Is it something that they'd want to do more work in? Because once you translate these skill sets into a real lab setting or a real like project setting, there is a much bigger time commitment. There is a much bigger, more stakes, dare I say, more stakes to put in, more stakes to get out. So just kind of dip your toes in the water, see if you enjoy it. And that's the goal of workshop 1. Yeah. So I guess should I go through these one by one?
Let's talk a little bit about it. So fundamentally, guys, we are students. We're trying to do this in a way where, this is in June, so it's not summer program time. So it's the learnings that you get from here could very well be applicable to summer programs that you're going to do in July. Or if you're not doing a summer program in July, you could actually start a passion project with Serena, or use some of the templates I've put together initially. And I'll hold some of those sessions myself with many of the students. Or Srikar will hold some of those sessions if they're outside of the medical framework. But the goal is do this in June, learn research ideas, regardless of what you're doing in July. Either apply it towards the seminar, the workshop 2, which will be more detailed and more one-on-one for each of you. So if you decide to do workshop 2, it's not a class setting, it's a one-on-one setting where you meet with Serena. You'll actually figure out what projects you want to do or discuss your ideas in workshop 1 itself. But Serena, if you want to go into a little more details of each of these sessions, that's great, or you can go to the next one. I'm also
Yeah.
curious if anybody has any questions, we can answer those questions now. Raise your hand and we'll give you the chance to, or just unmute yourself and just ask a question if there is a question now.
Hi Harpal, this is Deepthi. So Vidhu is actually, he's doing a summer program. Do you think he can take still advantage of these workshops? And he is basically a rising senior.
Yes, we designed everything, Deepthi, from the point of view of rising 9th, rising 10th, and rising 11th graders. Yet at the same time, if there are 11th graders, rising 12th graders who feel they don't have as quality a project figured out for the 12th grade and they want to continue with the sessions with Serena, that's one option. But the second one is fundamentally you will all learn. So come to the workshop 1 in June. That's when you should make up your mind, should you keep going with it or not. So in simple answers, yes, all 11th graders are welcome to attend or all rising 12th graders are welcome to attend the session in June, because they will learn something which they can apply not just to college apps in their activity list, but they can actually use this knowledge for college, in college as well.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Please just unmute yourself and ask questions. Okay. All right. Serena, you want to start, please? Go ahead.
Yeah, sounds good. Again, just to go off of what Harpal just said also, like the goal of this is just to kind of teach, I guess, / learn. And as with all research, like what you put in is what you get out. So this can be as low stakes or as high stakes as anyone needs. And also, yeah, these skill sets are super important in college when it comes to like writing papers or even doing research with professors later on. So highly encouraged. And I'm biased, but yeah. Session 1. So to go over a quick outline, session 1, how real research works. So the scientific method, which a lot of us learn in class, but you don't really get a chance to actually apply it to a specific interest area that you might have. I can talk a little bit about my own research journey and then also the different types of research that exist out there. I think a lot of us get funneled into wet lab and stay there, but there's a lot of different kinds of work that people can do. I, for one, started in wet lab and then realized I really liked computational work. And so that's kind of what I lean towards now in clinical research. Session 2 is just reading and reviewing papers, because any research starts with literature review, whether you realize it or not. So how to understand how to read an abstract, how to dissect figures, how to analyze results, how to parse out what each discussion section of a paper is trying to tell you, how to like critically evaluate papers, which is things that even in med school we learn every day. Session 3, experimental design and data thinking. So these are kind of, again, sessions are outlined somewhat chronologically in the order of like research processes. But session 3, experimental design, data. So what are variables? How to do like basic statistics, how to use like public data sets, how to really make the connection between available data, where I can find more data, and like the actual analysis or procedures or experiments that will be done. And then session 4, to cap off, just scientific writing. So how do you write an abstract, which is super useful for just a lot of different settings. And also tossing in here, I wanted to kind of go through how to cold email people. I think it's a skill set that we actually never learn anywhere, and most people learn by trial and error, which can be really painful and time consuming. So I want to just share some tips about kind of how to approach mentors, how to bring an idea, how to market yourself, and how to like really get into academic research, should you choose to do this in high school or in college. And then, yeah, session 4 can also just be a broad, like, where do you want to take this? Is this kind of the extent of how much knowledge you'd like to get out of this? Or is there a project idea that you found yourself really passionate about that you want to pursue? And that takes us, I guess, into workshop 2. Harpal, and that's something else you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, I can add something and then Anu can add also as needed. The one thing I find useful, and I think what I emphasized to Serena as we were putting this together, was how can students do a lot of the research without using wet labs, which becomes a very important, like, if you got into a Cosmos or an MIT Beaverworks, great, they will have access for wet labs for you. But given the environment we are in, we try to build out organic research, something that you can do on your own. So computational methods and having access to the data sets, public data sets. So just having even that much knowledge and being able to use those to showcase work that you did on your own will impress anybody. Will impress your teacher, your science teacher in school, will impress an admissions officer. Heck, it will impress you yourself that you were able to learn these skills on your own. So that is a big part of the focus, that how do we make it easier for our students to do research without having to go wet labs. Okay. Anu, anything to add?
Two things. This is again to touch back on the parents' question of the junior going to senior year and having the time. Even if they were able to attend this 4 sessions, they will walk away with something so much that they have moved or dialed up in the area, where they will go to the summer program with a little more skill set build and more research prowess, right? The questions to ask. And the other angle is, I like the fact that within 4 sessions, we are giving, here is a teaser, that's 6 hours plus a little bit more time in the in-between working time that Serena has assigned, that they learn to understand papers, to review things. And finally, the scientific writing and cold emailing, these are things that are going to continue all the way tomorrow when you pursue an internship or you're writing to a professor to be in a lab. These skills are built right here with us, which you can carry forward. So I think no matter where you are in your high school journey, the sessions, if attended, would definitely give you the boost needed in growing in the research area.
Yeah. Thank you, Anu. Serena?
Yeah. So after workshop 1, which I think we're planning for just 2 weeks-ish, in late June, I will be kind of doing a one-on-one session with any students who are interested, just to kind of go through like where you're standing. So your abstract, project sketch, anything that you might have developed during workshop 1, we can kind of scope the project itself and then talk a little bit about just next steps. So do you want to take this to wet lab? Is it something you can do in a computational setting, aka at home by yourself? And then maybe explore some of those non-wet lab angles. So can we use any public data sets? Can we leverage any like community resources? Can we do the data analysis on our own and then do the project? And the goal is to kind of figure out, can we take this idea to like a school-based project, or is it something you'd like to pursue on your own time in the next few months? Or something that you want to take to like an external PI, to a research program, something that's like a little more refined and polished rather than just a general interest statement. And obviously, goal here is just I myself can be a resource for one-to-one mentorship, and then, yeah, to develop a deeper, more customized passion project, like the slide says.
Okay.
And then, Prabal, do you want to give a brief intro to start talking?
Workshop 2 is for the more serious students, the ones who've learned from Serena and want to build projects specifically in the areas that she has interest or her expertise in, which is more on the medical side of things. If that's an area of interest that you want to build out projects, again, even if you have a summer project going on or a summer program you join, my goal is not to just have workshop 2 available in the summer. It could be an ongoing 8 to 9 sessions with Serena over the year. You could start the workshop 2 for yourself in August, September, October, when you want to do it. Okay, so see this as a continuum which will go across multiple years for a student, and versus saying this is a 3-week project or like your workshops. You could be meeting with Serena as often as you need, specifically for your project, or if your project goes into a science fair, you got multiple students or multiple peers involved with you. You could still take guidance from her on those projects as you pivot as well. Okay, but go ahead, Serena.
Yeah, so the inspo behind Workshop 2 personally was kind of just how my research projects tended to run during high school. To give you guys an idea, we would like do our brainstorming between May and August. We'd refine projects in September and order supplies early October, and then the actual research would run between November and February. February was always like a cram of papers, abstracts, presentation prepping, and then we did science fairs from March through May pretty much. But obviously, like projects I've done in college have looked very different. It could be more condensed, more drawn out. Point is, it really depends on the project itself and the person. So Workshop 2, we don't really have a set timeline or anything, but like Harpal says, I'm here as you can think of your PhD student in your lab, who's kind of just a resource to bounce off on, someone to guide you through whatever idea you have. Super flexible, fully customized just by nature of how research works. And the goal is to build towards a science fair ready project, something you can talk about that you genuinely have passion for in your college applications, in your interviews. And truly with research, like you never know where it'll go. It could go to some kind of like community like thing that ends up happening, or it could go to a science fair, it could go to a paper, it could go to just something that you build your interest off of. So that's our goal, just to bring the idea farther into a research setting.
Okay.
And as with anything, just kind of laying out the expectations and outcomes that we're hoping for. So Workshop 1 is focused again on teaching just practical, transferable skills that are far beyond any project or just even research as a whole. There are a lot of skill sets that are super useful in classes, in career, in just anything you do in STEM. And my personal goal is to help students kind of A, learn about what research is, and B, like understand how to design a project and think about science, and not just be, like Anu said, the person who follows their PI like blindly and can recite what they did, but doesn't actually understand what that means for science. And also just give honest, personalized feedback. We always lack that in a lot of these academic settings. And also, I want to offer kind of what's realistic, because I know a huge barrier in high school research is just like you want to do something, but you don't have the avenue, the time, the connections to do it. And so just keeping it real, what is realistic, what's not, and what can we make out of it. And yeah, happy to connect people to kind of non-wet lab alternatives when those are available. Again, that just kind of tackles the realism problem a little bit at times. We obviously, because academia is so gray area and it's so unpredictable, we can't guarantee a published paper or academic journal or science fair, anything like that. That is far, far, far beyond my control or any of our controls. But to be clear, also, I do personally think that published papers in academic journal things are overstated in the importance for college applications, because admissions counselors understand that it's very, like, this is a very gray area, and like there's a lot of politics that goes on behind journals. And so really what's more important is that you have an idea that you're passionate about, you can speak about. It shows that you have grit, you have interest, you understand how science works, and you understand the nuances behind the work that you did and why this is important to you and to the world. And so that, I think, is something we can deliver on. But just to be clear, yeah, published papers are not within something I can control. So just bring that out there.
The crux is we're not apologants. We're not a research company per se, where we have PhD students working just to focus on a project with you. Learn what you learn over here. You might need to get once the idea is clear, once your genuine excitement for the project is in place, you've got some ideas of what to do. For example, if you need to use a statistical language, Serena can give you some concepts around R and basics, but if you need to really dominate and use a specific computer science language, you start working with Srikar or with a mentor externally. Maybe you reach out to a school professor teacher and they become the overall mentor. So you put the seed in place, get the entrepreneurial zeal going, get the team together, but having an external mentor, could be a parent who might get involved to guide the students there, might be fairly important in this project. So if this project have to take a leg of its own, if you want to take it to a science fair selection, that level of oomph might be required. So let's be realistic about it. Okay?
Can I chime in here, Arpa?
Yes.
As we are seeing, as Serena correctly pointed, like, the end point is not the mission. The takeoff, giving you the wings to fly and investigate, research, and see how you can move your muscle there. That is the focus of this program, right? You can take the building blocks from here and go whichever directions they pointed. And as we know, publishing a paper or academic journal correct or something, that's a lot of gray areas there. You can navigate to it, but getting the groundwork is where we are coming in with. And it doesn't matter, the journey is what we are trying to make the students fall in love, because once they get the ropes there, they can apply to any different major and proceed with their questions. So
Right.
that is a comfortable space which I feel some of the hard press programs don't offer, because they are like milestone oriented, that the love for pursuing research is missing, right? Like how to teach that. And as Harpal rightly pointed, we need quite a lot of interest and commitment and discipline to come back, right? Like, okay, 2 weeks later, I'm meeting with Serena. Hey, I'm going to think about this question she asked me to look into. Let me come with an answer, or let me work on finding the answer with her, right? Like that spirit, if it carries through, then you will reap the benefits of the program. Definitely.
Okay. Right. We already talked about Serena's background and our background. So I think we are fairly clear about here. We'll also share these slide decks with you. But Serena, is there anything you want to add from your background over here or project you did, or can we move to the next slide?
We can move on. I can talk for a very long time, so no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so to kind of give you guys, again, just an idea of what we see as students who might benefit from this. These are two kind of different poles of it, but example one, just a student who likes the general field but doesn't really know what research entails. They hear it as a word, it's just kind of floating out there, it doesn't have any tangible meaning or things attached to it. Hoping that you can join workshop one and see if there's something that kind of piques your interest, whether it's enjoying kind of dissecting literature or a specific topic, or just the general scientific method, data analysis. And then we're hoping you leave with, just a polished mini abstract or a project idea, something that you can work with a teacher or external PI on for the next year. Super low stakes and very just passion based. Just kind of a real first step for students to bounce off of who didn't really have that foundation to begin with. And on the flip side, example two is just someone who maybe has a deeper interest in specifically a topic, who uses workshop one to actually frame an idea that they've had or something that, again, they're just super interested in. And then workshop two can be a continuation of that, where we refine that idea and then actually work on it over the school year, and then ends up submitting it to a fair or a science regional thing. And then, yeah, so obviously two different ends. One of them is more exploratory, one of them is kind of more goal oriented. But both students will leave with something that's meaningful and something that they can say that they own, like a project or an outcome that they helped develop.
Okay. All right, logistics and next steps. The workshop that we are thinking, the workshop one, will be from June 15th to June 26th, once a week meeting. And then about hour to hour and a half expectation to be in the room with us. And then, of course, whatever homework Serena provides to you, you work that through. Let me know if you are interested in this program. Just shoot me a one-liner, and I'll, we'll basically create a WhatsApp group specifically that Serena will send some information out on later. But if this is what you want to do, you're in with us. Okay. Anu or Serena, anything about this workflow? Next steps?
I guess the one thing I want to add is just I'm also happy to, because we're not expecting this to be super open because there's an interest form and everything. I'm happy to, I'll add some details into the form about like what specific field, if any, you might be interested in. And then I'm happy to use that info to kind of tailor sessions maybe a little bit to those specific topics. Like I don't want to be preaching biology to a bunch of environmental science kids. So yeah, I'll just tag that in there just to
Yeah, having a general indication of the fields they may be interested in would give us the roadmap of making sure everybody gets covered. Good point.
I think you can just reach out to Serena directly, or shoot me a detailed note. Or in your group, like if you once you show interest, we'll add Serena to your student group, your family group, and you can ask questions there, and we'll build the content from there. That might be the easiest way to get your interest form going. Okay. But yeah, this is our North Star vision for you guys. Smartest, safest way to find out what you really love about research and to start a project which can actually grow. That's what we're looking for. We're not trying to sell you anything, honestly, right? We're just trying to get you the way to get more excited students, and that is in short supply nowadays with ChatGPT and the whole AI, era. I mean, one area that I see students doing is preparing for regional science fairs like the Alameda County Fair in the Bay Area. There's several other fairs in your own local areas where students start thinking about these fairs in October, November, maybe December, and the fair is in March. This we're giving you as a roadmap, a plan for your fairs, which are typically in February, March timeframe. Start working now with that goal that you're going to present something that time. If you start working, putting the momentum together, you'll be there. Okay. Cool. We'll open it up to any questions from anybody else, anybody in the room, audience, that you guys find it exciting, interesting. Please. Hi, Sandeep.
Yeah, Paul, two questions, Sandeep here. So the first one, you mentioned 15 to 26 June, right?
Yeah.
For the workshop. So for any reason the kid is interested but miss that week, then what are the other options to like align that? And considering, I think you mentioned the second is in July if you are interested, but if there is summer camp, then again, like what generally next steps are? That is like a general logistics. And the second one is like I did saw like Serena or Anu's profile mostly in biomedical or medical, but let's say the kid comes out with areas into mechanical engineering or something along those lines, then I think the initial workshop will help the kid understand the general steps of research. But when we go dig deeper, then like how we support their interest through some subject matter expertise from SK.
So to answer the first question about logistics, we can work with you, Sandeep. So if the student is not available during the times when Serena is doing the workshop, the sessions will be recorded, and depending upon Serena's availability, if she can do more sessions that week, even a one-on-one session for the student alone, that's fine. We can make things happen. Only the only ask would be, please listen to the recording from what Serena puts together initially, that 1.5 hour session. I want to make it as easy as we can. This is the first year we're doing it. We'll make it happen if Sahil or Kshitij are interested and want to meet with her one-on-one. Well, depending on Serena's availability, we'll open up her Calendly to you to put some time on her calendar. Okay. Second question, that is a sticky area. I am struggling with that myself. I have experts from the medical side right now with me. So my first thought is try to build your first project, your first research project in an area which there is some interdisciplinary interest from engineering and maybe something in biology. If not, if you choose a project that you want to work on, we'll try and hire some people from outside. No guarantees at this point, but there are ways to get, like, you can either, once you've figured out a project you want to work on, you can actually either work with Polygens to take that project to the next level, which will have very guaranteed targeted research analysts to work with you, or I'll try and find some for SK, depending upon the interest once the interest projects have been solidified. But none of this takes away from the fact that if your goal is to take it to a North Star college science fair or student science fair in the school, your high school teacher or an interested parent might still be needed involved. Okay. Anu or Serena, you want to add to what I said, please?
I could add on a little bit. For what it's worth, I did my high school research in environmental science. I was an engineering undergrad, and now I'm in med school. So I actually have covered a lot of research background, more so than I think a short bio would state. That being said, I absolutely do not promise technical expertise in any of these fields because research is so diverse. But I do think that having a really strong foundational understanding of research can get you farther than you think in a project, because I think anyone who has done this field will tell you, a lot of the times the answer is not in your textbook, it's in the literature, or it's in your own intuition, or it's not from class. It's just from that's the nature of this field. I don't think this kind of directly addresses the question, but just another point of encouragement, even if your interests differ from me and Anu's, I think it's still very much worth pursuing and seeing where you yourself can take it to.
I would like to chime in on that, as exactly as Serena pointed out. The first session of workshops is entirely for, the sessions are towards moving your muscle and understanding research, which is uniform across the board, whether you're doing it in aerospace engineering, business and finance, or market analysis, or engineering biomed, right? And in fact, I've had one of my students who went all the way to Lockheed Martin design engineering. She's in mechanical engineering, and their team won the national award. We had to design a project and run it all the way, right? That was one of the project she was already working on, where we came in and gave expert advice to write the paper, look at literature. So these can all happen, but think about this run as a trampoline. How higher you jump and how far you can reach, the boost comes from here. And as Harpal pointed out, you can then follow up with outside engineering mentor or Polygens program. But getting the boost is something very meaningful from what we are offering currently.
Right. There was one more question. I think Rashmi had a question.
Yeah, I think she unmuted.
Hey everyone. No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say this was really helpful and informative, and looking forward to the session.
Good. Thank you for saying that. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Harpa.
Sure.
Only concern is the time conflict if Tarika gets into any program, but you said it's flexible and we can work around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So just tell us in your group you want us to get started, and we'll have Serena join the group, and we can start working with you to put a flexible schedule.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, it all sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else? Questions? Okay. Well, going one, going two, going three. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. Serena, thank you so much for taking the time. Anu, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Thank you all. Thank you, Serena, Anu, and Harpa.
Take
Take care. Bye.